Welcome to Swolehammer. So we got our copy of Arena of Shades, and we wanted to help guide you as to what are the biggest takeaways from this Nighthaunt vs. Daughters of Khaine versus box. And Riley's here too.
Well, hey everybody.
So starting off with our number 5 takeaway, this box is simply just a great value.
It's true. In terms of the Daughters of Khaine, you get a high Gladiatrix. We also get some Kinnerai Heartrenders, which are super solid, some Doomfire Warlocks, and some Sisters of Slaughter. And after all, you can't spell slaughter without laughter. Oof. It was good. And on the Nighthaunt side, we also get a Scriptum Mortis. You get a Spirit Torment, which is pretty huge. Those are pretty meta-defining. Some Chain Gas, which are fun options, Myronmorn Banshees, and Blade Ghast Revenants.
Yeah, and it's got to be said that this is just a really fun, good variety of units. Doomfire Warlocks you hardly see in general. And compared to Fury of the Deep, it just really hits a lot harder. The last box was just very plain. This one has a lot more going on.
That's a good point, and I suppose it's also worth saying that, armies like Nighthaunt have a lot more variety to choose from, so it's kind of nice that they reined it into things that I think they think the community probably wanted to see in that box.
On to our number 4 takeaway. We now have a solid design idea for how these boxes are going to go when it comes to the new units. In the last box, there was the thematic hero versus, let's just say, the usable one. Fyreslayers were thematic, and the Deepkin had the usable hero. And this is kind of the same case with the Arena of Shades. Nighthaunt are thematic, and Daughters of Khaine have a really good hero in the High Gladiatrix.
Definitely usable, to use your term.
Definitely, Scriptum Mortis, I'm not above using fun units. There's definitely more of kind of like go through a bunch of hoops to get something that might happen that could be cool. Well, the Gladiatrix is just all around a very usable character. This is a takeaway because it is a trend that we can now see with 2 boxes in a row, and with the Chaos versus Order box being confirmed for summer and probably more coming out in the latter half of the year, you can kind of expect this trend to keep on going. So for the number 3 takeaway, this box really sets the tone for what's going to happen with the new Battletomes coming out. From the general idea we get with the War Scroll changes, Nighthaunt got a lot of changes, while Daughters of Khaine were pretty reined in when it came to any differences.
Yeah, not a lot going on with the Daughters of Khaine changes, but I think it's pretty easy to say that at least for the Daughters of Khaine, all of the changes were pretty positive.
But yeah, I think this is partially because the Daughters of Khaine book is just looking to be kind of like very side grade, almost like the Maggotkin of Nurgle book, where it's like they're in a good spot. Daughters of Khaine are in a really good spot right now, though, that being said. So I think they're not going to push them very much. There'll be a lot of changes and stuff in like the way they play, but like stats wise, I think not much is going to change.
Yeah, the Heartrenders are definitely a little more durable and a little more mobile. And in general, I think the Gladiatrix is something that's a net positive. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. A lot of the changes for Nighthaunt kind of centered around the Spirit Torment. For one, in general, you used to have an option between really buffing your attacks and local units near the Spirit Torment, or you can kind of pivot into healing. A lot of people were kind of split on which was better. Now the attack buff is gone and we just have the healing, but the healing's a lot stronger, so you have a pretty defined role for the Spirit Torment. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I just see it as more it's more concrete. You kind of know what you get with the Spirit Torment, and it's not bad. In terms of a lot of the re-rollings of ones, it seems like, honestly, in terms of Games Workshop's direction with the game, it seems like they're moving toward faster games with less re-rolls. And when you have units like Chain Rasps, where you're throwing a heck ton of dice, not having to re-roll all of those ones is a pretty big, faster game change. So I don't think this is something that's going to be Nighthaunt exclusive, so I don't really see that as necessarily like this is a nerf to Nighthaunt.
Yeah, they're kind of streamlining a lot of things, and people early on, when the Maggotkin of Nurgle book came out, they thought it was a very bad book, and you kind of have to read what's past the War Scroll and kind of wait till everything kind of is actually in play to see what it is. But that being said, any real change to Nighthaunt like just to see them get so much change, especially, definitely gives a lot of hope for some like just a very like revitalized Battletome.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of synergies that, we're not seeing the full picture yet, so it's kind of hard to say. Another one to mention is the Marmorn Banshees. They have better attacks now. They're a lot more offensively capable. But the spell disruption is a lot more specific. It's a little more niche and kind of odd. But I think that's because there's going to be some synergies that are in the new Battletome that will make that make a lot more sense. I think it's too early to just say, well, this is worse.
Now, for our last two takeaways, we're going to focus on the units that come with the box. And our number 2 takeaway is that the High Gladiatrix slaps.
Really does.
100 points, flat 100 points, buffs Sisters of Slaughter and Witch Elves and gives them better rend. I mean, holy crap. And then on top of it, that's like already a good like support character. And then she can just straight out on a D3 roll possibly just kill an injured support character outright.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Honestly, let's get some meaty S's in the chat first. The slaps that are being laid down here. The Gladiatrix gives better wound bonuses and an AoE, buffs local pile-in from 3 inches to 6 inches, and it's not a slouch in combat. And like you said, Rafi, Killing Stroke is just a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and it's honestly like a flavorful but also good ability. It's like, well, if she doesn't finish off like a 5 wound support character in combat, well, it could just happen now. There's a lot of things going well for this character, or for, I should say, this leader option. This is going to be, you're going to run more Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter, and she's going to be in every list, because why the hell wouldn't you? You can spare the 100 points out of a 2,000 point list, or even a 1,000 point list.
Yeah, I mean, 100 points in a 2,000 point list, that's only 5% of your list. You have room for that.
Now, number 1 takeaway from the Arena of Shades.
I'm nervous about this one.
Yeah, because I'm pushing for this. Craventhrone Guard will be competitive, 100%. Now, I've already argued with people at Adepticon about this, but I think that the Craventhrone Guard are a very high value unit. I think having a good, solid ranged unit in death is very important, let alone the fact that they're pretty much a balanced version of Hiveguard from the Tyranids from Warhammer 40k. Indirect fire is huge, and while people argue, because yes, there is less terrain than there is in 40k, and you can kind of work around it, I have 2 things to say. It's not a problem until it is a problem. You never have to worry about indirect fire until now. Like, this is something that's new to the AOS players. Secondly, redeploy is a very real thing that people use pretty much every phase. And I think, while, like I said, they are balanced, they are cheap enough to run easily, and they throw enough shots with enough consistency that I think they are very solid. And again, similarly to High Gladiatrix, like, why wouldn't you run them?
Yeah, I see a lot of comparisons being drawn from the Craventhrone Guard and the Chain Ghasts, which Chain Ghasts right now are kind of the ranged options for Nighthaunt.
And they're not taken very often either, from what it looks like.
Yeah, they're not taken often. You know, they get D3 attacks and there's only 2 models per unit, so at most you're getting 6 attacks versus the 10 from the Craventhrone, on top of the fact that you could also just get 2 attacks, which is kind of piddly.
Yeah.
You get better rend on them, which is one thing to say for the Chain Ghast, but in terms of just sheer amount of dice that you're rolling, I think I want to choose the consistent 10 dice.
Right. I mean, also the fact that you can, like, yes, like, the Craventhrone Guard only 1 wound as opposed to 2, but it's pretty easy to say it's like D3 is always just inconsistent. You want consistency in these games, and I think just having the minus, like the 4 and 4 minus 1 rend, 1 damage, 10 attacks from a full unit, that's pretty good. You don't, and having the minus 2 rend from Chain Gas, I think is pretty negligible because it's still 1 damage.
Right, the damage is the same, and you still get minus 1 rend on the Craventhrone Guard.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where this is like why wouldn't you do this? I feel like they're a very competitive option, and it's a very, very cool thing to see, especially as someone who has played a lot of 40k, to be like, oh, this is what Hiveguard could have looked like if they're balanced.
Right, yeah, it's definitely a lot more reined in than that, but in a way that I think is healthy and not too far reined in to where you wouldn't use it.
No, it's healthy, it's flavorful, it's very cool, and I'd love to see them on the battlefield, and I'm sure they'll cause me a lot of trouble.
I mean, I hope so, because I'll be playing them. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And just to give my own opinion on the terrain abuse, it's like, it's something that we haven't seen in AOS. I've heard people say that, well, terrain's never really been a factor in AOS. Well, not that I know of, there hasn't really been a mechanic to abuse terrain in AOS in the way that we're seeing here. So I think it's too early to say. I haven't heard anyone say, I've tested them and they stink. So I think we just want to playtest them, see how they go. Maybe we're wrong and they're bad, but I don't think they are. They seem pretty
I'm
decent.
going to stick to my guns and say that they're very good. I think they are a competitive option. It's like I said earlier. It's like if it's not written on the War Scroll, sometimes people don't see it. It's like it's not a problem until it is a problem. Yeah. And like you don't, in Age of Sigmar, you don't have to play against like line of sight that much. Now you kind of have to because of the Craventhrone guard. It's balanced. I'm not going to say they're overpowered or anything.
No, definitely not.
But it's definitely something to be aware of, and I think they're very cool and very good.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. And worst case, you have 5 great-looking models that you can put on your shelf.
And that was our top 5 takeaways from the Arena of Shades. We had a lot to say about this box because we were both very excited as armies that we're both interested in, while Riley being a Nighthaunt main. But yeah, let us know what you think about our takeaways. If you get the box, let us know what you think of it. And as always, this is Swolehammer. Hope you had a good time and
stay swole.